So you've got roses as well at this point?
Things are blooming. What can I say?
Okay, they're redirecting us.
So I think that it is.
And I think we are
live.
We are live. Well, welcome everyone. This is Glenda Carroll, and I'm here for Mystery Writers of America, the Northern California chapter. Today we have another program of Facebook Saturday Live. And this is a place where authors, and they're mostly local authors, give short, really sort of detailed, concise thoughts on the craft of crime. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're not talking about the techniques of writing. What we're going to be talking about are conferences. As you know, for the past couple of years, because of COVID, either the conferences went, online, or they didn't exist at all. But hopefully things will be better this year. And I'm going to my first conference in a few months. And so this is perfect for me. Speaking about how to get the most out of your conference is Laurie King. Laurie has received a wonderful honor recently. And so I call her the GM. That doesn't mean she's a general manager for a baseball team. It stands for Grand Master. And this was given to her by the National Mystery Writers of America. She's also been the past president of our chapter. So, she knows many of you who are out there. When you're watching this, if you have any questions, put them in the comments section on Facebook. That will be great, and then we'll get to them at the end of the session. And I think, let me just quickly check. That's it. Laurie, it's all on you.
It's all on me.
All on you.
Thank you, Glenda. My name, as Glenda said, is Laurie King. I write many books. I have been to many conferences. And as we were talking a while ago about the idea that conferences are coming back in 2022, we realized that a lot of us either have not been or haven't been in so long that we have to think, what is that? You get together with people and you shake hands? Oh, I don't know about that. I actually have 3 conferences in 1 month, and we will have to see how I am at the end of April. Whether I am in a little puddle on the floor quivering, or whether I say, hey, this is great. Check back with me then. What I wanted to talk about was the conference for a sort of spectrum of people. Some of you are writers. Some of you are readers thinking about being writers. Some of you are fairly established writers. And I'm trying to hit the sweet point of all of the middle of those. I'm going to talk about what to do now for a conference that is in, for example, 2 months from now, what to do in the weeks closer up to that time, and what to do during the conference itself. So 2 or so months out, what should you be doing? Step 1, sign up to volunteer. All conferences, most conferences, have a little button on their webpage that asks for volunteers. If they don't have one, write to them and say, can I do anything for you? Some of these are groups of people who do things like unpack boxes of books that are donated to the conference, and you need to divide them up and put them in book bags. Others are making the signs. Others are during the conference itself. They need people to time the panels, keep people on track. All those sorts of things. If you're there in advance, great. Sign up for one of the ones that is before. If you're there just during the time, they can use you then. The advantage to being a volunteer is that you really understand how it works by the time you've sat the information table, you've given out book bags, you've run up and down and helped people find whatever it is they need. It's a great way of understanding the conference and becoming part of the community. So sign up to volunteer and tell them Laurie sent you. You should also try as much as you can to book at the conference hotel. The conference hotel is the center of everything. If you're not staying there, it's a pain because you're going to be going back and forth and back and forth. There'll always be something that you need in your room that you have to then cross the street, go around 3 blocks and up another set of elevators. It's also sometimes a problem at night if you're staying off the conference grounds and you've been out in the bar at night. Sometimes it's not really comfortable. So unless you are living in the town that the conference is taking place at, I would suggest that you try your best to get into the conference hotel. If you are a writer 2 months out, you should think about having some kind of book card or bookmark, something like that. Something that this is one that I did a while ago, several books ago. It's a simple card that has a cover, my name, and a little quote. On the back of it, in very, 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 very fine print, is a complete checklist of all the other titles. Because, as you can see, that one began to be not functional because I couldn't read it, much less anyone else. I started doing ones that you can get if you Google folded business cards. You'll see the companies that do these. I think Vistaprint is one, and there's another one. There's one that you can get that is two-sided. And the advantage to that is you can put all your books in the middle. You have twice as much space for the books. So those are 2 things I would recommend. You can also do bookmarks. Bookmarks give good information. Sometimes you can also get a compromise of them. There's a kind of bookmark that folds in half and becomes the size of a book card that is handy for those people who like to have a checklist and they can mark off your books. The disadvantage of having something that is your current book is that you're going to end up tossing a million of them away. No matter how many you get, you never need quite as many as you think. So if you have something more general, you can use it for a longer period of time. If you get more specific, you have to have them done every time you have a new book, but it's up to you. But it's great to have something so that when you introduce yourself, you can hand someone something. It'll go in a pocket, it'll go in their purse, it'll go in the garbage at some point, it doesn't matter. But you give them something so that afterwards they can say, "How is that person that I met?" And there you are. This is also the time, a couple of months out, that you should make sure you have a website. If there are any writers out there, any would-be writers out there who don't have a website yet, this is the time to do it. It doesn't have to be elaborate. All it has to do is to have a homepage and a book list and any events that you have coming up. But your web page is where people find you. If you're sitting in a panel and you hear somebody talking, you think, "They're really interesting. I wonder what books they write." You sit there and look them up on the web page, and there you are. So some kind of book card to give out and a web page. I will also ask anyone who is watching if you have tips, suggestions, or the things that you really would wish that you knew before you went to your first conference. Put them in the comments section, and other people can take note of them as well. So those are the things that I recommend this far out from a conference, a couple of months out from a conference. Closer up to the conference, you start finding the conference website becoming more active. They start listing some of the events so that you can start putting your own calendar together. They start having signups for the off-campus events. Quite often they'll do tours of places that are related to the city or the topic or something of interest to readers. Or mystery readers in particular. you begin to find those available on the website. And you also start finding the attendees list, and you can start looking that over and thinking, I didn't know they were going. I will make sure I see them. So in the weeks leading up to a conference, you need to be thinking about what is it that you want from this conference? What is it that you're hoping for? And we'll come back to this in a minute. But think about, it isn't just getting on a plane and then going home again and having it all taken care of. That's a really great way to end up exhausted, sick from a cold, and just basically confused. So figure out what you want from this conference. Also, be aware from the very beginning that it's sometimes tough to do a balance, but you need to be aware of that balance. You need to think about how to get the most out of this conference, and yet how not to be utterly burned out and insane by the end of it. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes it helps a lot to lock in certain events or non-events. Make a date with a friend to meet for coffee off of the campus of the conference site. Something that gets you out of your head, out of your conference, and out of the hotel. When the website starts being populated with information, is the time to sign up for side trips. These are great not only because they let you see things that are related to the city or the place or the conference, but it also is a way of meeting the people that you're going to be hanging out with for the next 2, 3, 4 days. Also, these are the time when you want to look at who you don't want to miss. What writers are going to be there. Make notes of them. When the conference schedule comes into effect, then you can begin to hunt them down and say, they have a talk at 1 o'clock, which means they'll have a signing at 2 o'clock. I can see them there. You can also, it's very helpful to have a meetup planned with 1 or 2 or 6 other people. And a great use of for example, the NorCal forum. We have a forum, and if you are a NorCal member and you haven't entered into the forum yet, just go onto our homepage and you can find a link there. We have to give you the link because otherwise it's open to everyone, which is not the idea of the forum. But it allows you to say, hey, this is my first Left Coast Crime. Anybody want to meet up for coffee on Thursday morning? Quite often, groups, there are 11 chapters in Mystery Writers of America. There's also a national organization. There's more chapters than I can count of Sisters in Crime. Quite often, people will be going to a conference like Left Coast Crime or Bouchercon. And if you post a note on that forum and say, anyone coming, anyone interested in a group get-together, the board of that chapter, that group, might want to set up a time for meeting in the cafe, the main hotel cafe, someplace off-site maybe, or down in the bar in the evening, just as a way of shaking hands and saying, I recognize you from one of the events that we did back in the dark ages. It's a good way of networking and building contacts and friendships. So keep an eye on the local chapters for your Mystery Writers of America and Sisters in Crime. So let's say you are a writer. What am I as a writer after at a conference like Left Coast Crime, or Malice Domestic, or Clambake, or Bouchercon? What am I after? Because it differs hugely. Some of us who have been in the business for a number of years, this is the only time when we see our colleagues. This is the only time when I see people who live in New York or Chicago or wherever. I can't pick up the phone and say, meet me for coffee, but I can meet them once a year at Bouchercon or wherever. If you are a new writer and you are interested in finding, for example, an agent or editor, that's the time when the schedule really comes in handy, because there will be, if not an entire track for editing and agenting, they certainly will be panels on the topics. And you can go to their to those panels, take notes, listen to the people. If you hear anyone speaking, one of the agents, for example, is speaking, most of the reason why agents go to these things is that to let you know that they are able to take new clients, or at least interested in them. So you need to introduce yourself and say, I'm interested, I'm going to write you after the conference is over. Don't corner them at the conference, it's too crazy busy. But give them your card or your bookplate or whatever you have, and say, this is my name, I'd really like to, to get your feedback, and I will write to you afterwards. And that's what they're there for. It also enables you to really understand better how this crazy business works, how an editor, what an editor is looking for, what they are doing, what's the difference between a publisher's editor and an independent editor. All those sorts of things that you need to understand before you can really get launched into the writing world. You may also be interested in the craft of writing. There's always panels on those. And what you need to do is look at people who write either the kinds of things that you are thinking of writing, or people who are hugely successful and you want to know how they did it, or people whose books you just love and would like to understand better about how they work. Similarly, self-publication and promotion, there's always a certain number of panels that sort of overlap with that, some more than others. I think you'd probably find that the craft conferences, rather than the fan conferences, would have a lot more on promo and self-pub. But even a general conference like Left Coast or Bouchercon would have a certain amount of that. So you've researched the schedule, you've made notes of the people that you want to hear for various reasons. What do you do next? Well, you need to have a way of describing yourself in a succinct manner that makes you sound like a professional. So you want what they call, and I hate this term, but it's called an elevator pitch. That is, it's the sort of thing that you can tell someone between one floor and the next on an elevator. So 30-second. So, hi, my name is Laurie King. I do X. What you want is something quick and intriguing. Doesn't have to be detailed, or in fact, it shouldn't be detailed. All you want to do is have something that teases their mind. So that, for example, I write a series of books about a young woman who meets and becomes the apprentice of Sherlock Holmes in the early part of the 20th century. Now, I could see that. It explains exactly what it is. But I could also say, my name is Laurie King. I write a historical series about the world's greatest detective and her husband, Sherlock Holmes. You need to practice that. You need to think about what you want to tell people and what you don't want to bother telling them with. And a great way of doing that practice, and especially for those of us who haven't been to a conference in 112 years, Left Coast Crime has a speed dating day. Now, it may all be full, I don't know, but you can sign up for speed dating. And what it is a pitch fest. You sit down, you describe your book, You briefly exchange information, then you go on. And a lot of the conferences have these sorts of things. They're great fun. They're absolutely exhausting. And there's super practice in putting yourself forward. You don't need to brag. You don't need to, you don't need to apologize. You don't anything like that. You just say who you are, what you are doing, and why they should be interested. So now, on the other hand, what if you're a fan? What if you're maybe thinking about writing, but not seriously yet? What is it that you want? Well, again, I would say you need to look at the website when it starts being populated with information. You need to find any of your favorite authors who are there and make note of them so that when the schedule is published, you can find them. And they usually are good about putting cross references. You can look up somebody's name and it'll tell you when they're doing a panel. Sometimes that's not on the website. Sometimes you have to wait till you get the booklet, but they usually are pretty good about letting you know how to find someone. These will be a panel. Most of these panels have a book signing immediately afterwards. Sometimes the more popular authors, they limit the number of books that you're allowed to have them sign at once. If you have an entire suitcase full of books, you have to go to the back of the line after every third or fourth book. It's up to you. If you have a favorite author and you want to give them a gift, don't make it heavy. Don't make it something they can't put on the airplane. It's lovely to get jars of honey, but make sure they're under 3 ounces so I can put them in my carry-on. Never ever give an author a book to sign in a toilet room. Never ever pass one under the next stall in the bathroom. They don't want to sign your book. Sometimes it's good to have a kind of vague idea if you see one of the authors that you know is going to be there. And especially if you're a little shy, and especially if you're absolutely awestruck by that author, sometimes it's good to have a specific idea of what you might like to say to them, instead of just saying, I love your books, which is great. We all love to hear that you love our books. It's also nice to hear something more specific. Your book changed my life when I was 15 and I realized that girls had brains. And that opens the door to a conversation. Not that you want a lengthy conversation because you've got 50 people in line, but it's a lovely personal contact. And sometimes it's nice to have something like that in mind so that if I see Sarah Paretsky, I'm going to tell her that V.I. Warchowski X. That sort of thing. So just a suggestion. Similarly, if you are in the break room, if you are buying coffee in the Starbucks in the hotel lobby, and you see somebody with the book bag or the ID tag, and they're not talking to 3 other people, say, do you come to these things a lot? Is there anything that you love that you think I shouldn't miss? Any author that you really would recommend? A conference like this, like any of these conferences, is about networking. And networking is not just for writers, it's for readers. You make marvelous friends at these things. I have a number of my readers that get together every year at the big conferences, and they have a meal and they talk about what their life is at. And then when they go home, they're still part of the community. So it's great to, even those of us who are shy, just have a pet phrase of, do you come to these things a lot? Or, this is my first one, what should I do? If it's somebody else who doesn't know, you can start there in the conversation. But just remember that everybody started these things new. Nobody feels comfortable the first 1 or 2 of them they went. My first one was in London in 1990. I was years from publication. And one of the first things, I met somebody who bluntly said, so are you a writer or a reader? And I thought, both? So if you just, you just realize that everybody is there as a new thing. And especially these These coming ones are going to be, everyone is going to be slightly awkward. So forgive us all. During the conference itself, remember what I said about balance. I want to find a way of achieving balance in my conference. I will eat actual food. I will get sleep. I will wear comfortable shoes. I will carry water and a sweater because you're often seated underneath the air conditioning. I will retreat before I get completely frazzled and feel like bursting into tears. I will go outside of the hotel at least once or twice a day, even if it's just to take a walk around the block. You can make yourself crazy at these things. And that's even without the question of to bar or not to bar. You make marvelous contacts, especially professional contacts in the bar at night, because everybody who's been crazy busy during the day can hang out and let their hair down at night. There's good things and bad about that. One of them is that some of us don't like getting in at 1 o'clock in the morning regularly. And it's a good way of being absolutely frazzled by the end of it. On the other hand, it's a great way of meeting people in a different setting from the formality of a book signing place or whatever. So if you have a friend that you know there, plan on going by for a drink afterwards, but don't feel it's absolutely necessary to go to the bar in order to get the most out of a conference. It's up to you. During the conference, again, if you are a writer and you are placed on a panel, not everyone is, even those of us who are important writers are not necessarily placed on a panel. But if you're on a panel, remember that it's about the topic and not about the selling. If you place your book in front of your microphone so that everyone can see your book, it's generally you're the only person in the 5 of you sitting up there that has that. If you answer every question with my character, my story, the rest of it, people are not impressed, and often that's the sign of an amateur. You're talking about the topic, about the craft, about the whole thing. If you have a specific answer to it and it's related to one of the characters, that's fine. But remember that the panel is not about the selling. The conference is not about the selling. It's about the community. Speaking of community, don't forget social media. Some of us who get distracted during the conference itself find it difficult to keep posting things during the conference, but do try as much as you can so that people know that you're there. And do post afterwards. If you have some great pictures with other writers, sometimes it just takes too long to put all their names in the hashtags and the rest of it, but do it afterwards. Nobody minds if you share your pictures after you get home. That's absolutely fine. So we are near to the half-hour mark. I'm happy to take questions in a minute. Just basically want to say that any conference is about a combination of fun and professionality. If you look at it as something that you need to absolutely do everything on, you won't manage and you'll burn out. So find things that give you that balance between having fun and making it worth your while, because it costs money. And keep it in mind that it's tough to find the balance. The only other thing I have to say is throat coat tea. You can save your life by the end of a conference, especially if you go to the bar at night. So, Glenda, any questions come up?
Yes, actually, I have one. So this will be my first, Left Coast Crime is going to be my first conference. I was planning on bringing some of my books. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Do I try and sell them there? I have no idea what to do if I bring them.
If you are, if you want to bring your own stuff, and especially those of you who are self-published out there, I would suggest that you write to the people who are in the book room and ask them if they want to take any of them on commission, just so that you have them there. Tell them that you have a, tell them why they might sell a couple copies of it and ask if they would be interested. It's very difficult to sell something at the signing table itself or afterwards. The structure of how to buy books works best through the book room. And I don't even know if conferences are keen on having people bring their own stuff to sell. That one, I really wouldn't know about that. But there's probably someone that you could ask. It's best to have a relationship with one of the booksellers. They can't bring everyone's books. Some of these booksellers, they come from Toronto, they come from all over the place. They're trucking in stuff, they're packing it up, they're unpacking it, they're repacking it, they're driving it home. If you can say to them, you can keep the profit on this, sell it, just give me whatever it costs you on it, and hand me back what you haven't sold at the end of it. Often they will be interested in that, but it's best to go through one of the booksellers, and they're great people. They really are.
Okay. This a comment from Laurie Sheehan.
Hi, Laurie.
It says about being on a panel. I like it when the panelists are familiar with the books of other panelists. Redirecting an answer to use an example from a fellow panelist book is classy. At least I find it classy. So I guess talk a bit more about being a panelist.
Yeah.
Are you expected to have read everybody's book?
In fact, I was thinking that we should have one of these Facebook Live things about being on a panel. It's tough to say, okay, there's 5 people on a panel. If you are the moderator, yes, you must have read everybody's book, at least the one that they are there to talk about. And it would be good to at least know the other things that they write about. You're not required, if you're moderating a panel with me, I don't expect you to have read all 30 books, really not. But you need to know pretty much who I am, where I'm coming from, and what the book is that you're reading. If I am on a panel with someone else, I will at least have read about them. I mean, it's difficult because this is a 40-minute panel, a 50-minute panel, and I have 3 panels that month. I have a book that's due myself. I have the other things. So I may not have the time to read everybody's book. I will at least look at them so that I know where they're coming from. I will know if you're writing romantic suspense or if you're writing cutting edge legal thrillers. I need to know that before I get up there on the stage with you. And I need to know, are you a best-selling author or is this your first self-pub book? Because there's different kinds of appreciation that requires and different kinds of treatments. I love self-pub authors, but you treat them from coming from a different viewpoint than someone all of whose publishing work is done by a mainstream publisher. You always need to know the community of the people that you're speaking with, even if you haven't read all their books. It's great if you read their books. And as Laurie Sheehan says, it is very classy to have read their books. It is completely classless to have a moderator who said, I just didn't read your books. You guys talked among yourselves, which I have heard happen at Bouchercon. So I think it was the last time he was asked to moderate a panel.
A question from Sharon Lynn.
Hi, Sharon.
Do you take a cheat sheet to help you remember what the other authors are doing?
Yes, sometimes. I have one of those really bad eyes for faces. and I find it really difficult to remember a face. Sometimes if I have a cheat sheet, and especially like before the panel, I will flip through their Wikipedia or their homepage, just so that if I'm sitting in a panel with 4 40-year-old brunette women, I have a chance. Because when you're on a panel, the names are on the outside. You know, they fold the card and they put it on the outside, and the inside is just a piece of paper. So trying to remember the 4 names of the people I'm with, anything that can give me a hand is helpful. So I will sometimes write down the order that we're sitting in, because I'm just lousy at faces, and it's embarrassing to say, "Hi, Jenny," and it's Susan. Yeah, cheat sheets are fine.
Another question. This is about conferences in general. For people who haven't gone to very many or any, are there any that you recommend? Like, I know a number of people from the Bay Area are going to go to Left Coast Crime. Are there any others, that you might suggest we attend?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you're interested in. If you are a writer, especially if you're a new writer, I would highly recommend the Book Passage Writing Conference, which is going to be in early August this year. They are going to hold it the first time in 2 years. I've been asked to go. I'm trying to figure out my calendar because I have a wedding in England just a week before. So, but it's a fabulous conference. MWA NorCal always sponsors their first night. They have drinks night over a barbecue. It's an absolutely amazing way of getting to know the local writers and the local industry. There's always agents, editors, resource people from the police departments, all kinds of things. If you are interested in a fan conference, that's a different matter. And you want something that is more of a mix, and that is Left Coast is usually a mix. It's a fan thing and it's craft. Bouchercon is the big one. And I say big, it's not big compared with Comic-Con. so it's kind of big in the mystery world, but it's usually around 1,500 people. This year it's in Minneapolis, I think. It's a great conference. It goes on runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday. Big writers go to it. There's an amazing assortment of panels, everything from craft to just fan conversations with great authors. So if you're interested in seeing the bigger writers, do go to Bouchercon. It's well worth it. So yeah, it kind of depends on whether you're looking for craft or community.
Okay, we have a few more things from Brian Avery. He says, I totally agree. I like when I get the chance to talk to my fellow panelists in advance so that we are comfortable talking with one another. That's someone backs up what you're saying. And this is something else from Marjorie Tucker. Besides not bothering writers in the bathroom, where else do readers do? Or maybe it's what else? What else do readers do that we shouldn't when it comes to authors? Yeah, Sorry about me.
Yeah.
Words here.
Yeah, and if I can pick up on Brian's suggestion, this is really great, and something that I can really thought of, but it would be good to suggest to your moderator, if you're on a panel, hey, can we just have a brief Zoom get together beforehand, and we can, just to sort of meet up, because most of us are on Zoom regularly, and we're happy to just say hi and have a bit of a chat so that we meet up beforehand. A lot of times people will meet up on as panels half an hour before the actual thing starts in the green room. In practice, many of us get distracted half of us can't find the green room, or it's on the complete other end of the hotel. And so by the time we get there, it's time to turn around. So, but yeah, it's something that you might suggest to people. As for what a fan can do for the writer, I think that, again, it's one of those things that, like the business of passing someone a book to sign under the stall of the bathroom, which did happen. And of all people, Sue Grafton, who was one of the most gracious individuals in the mystery world. Even she had to say, "Can you wait until I come out and wash my hands?" So there's that. Remember that that the writer that you see at a conference may be a bit frazzled themselves. Remember that, with a few very minor exceptions, we are paying our own way. We are not there as part of a publisher's push. We are there mostly so we can see friends and we can enjoy people. It's a difficult balance, because I, as a writer, love my readers, and I appreciate readers wanting to make contact with me, obviously. On the other hand, I go to these things and I see someone that I won't see for another year. And if I have a choice between sitting in the corner and having a coffee with her and being polite to a reader, it's a difficult balance. So know that we are there, that writers are there as part of our job. We are happy to be available to you. But if you have any particular thing that you want us to do, for example, the best thing is to introduce yourself, say that you like our books, and say, "I'm going to write you next week and ask you if you would come to our library, if you would write a blurb for me, if you would consider my daughter's XYZ." I have, through the years, painfully learned I never commit myself to anything at a conference, because I get conference brain. I don't know what I'm doing in the real world. And if I say yes to something, I won't remember it. But if you wait until I get home, write me through my website and say, "We met last week. I told you I was going to write you, and this is what I want." It's a much more sensible way of doing things than to try and pin me down at a conference when I am torn in 3 different directions. So
That is it for our questions. Very nice job, Ms. Laurie.
And
I
I'm
learned a lot. I
really
learned a
looking
lot what
forward
not
to
to
Left
do.
Coast Crime. I'm looking forward to Glenda at Left Coast Crime, and I'm looking forward to a number of you there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But if
Yeah,
I do look like I'm getting frazzled, just tell me to go away.
calm down. Like, calm down. Have a Zen moment. We'll do that. I just wanted to give you an idea of what's coming up next month. On March 12th, we're going to have a battle of the plotters or non-plotters. So the title is Always Outline, Never Outline. So this should be a lot of fun. And I wanted to thank all of you for coming in and watching these over the past year. Last year, we had over 4,000 views of all of our different programs on Facebook Live. So that is just great. So thank you very much, Laurie. I learned a lot.
Thank you, Glenda.
Ain't it? And I will see all of you next month in March. Bye-bye.